Hi everyone, Diane here. Welcome to my studio. Hope everyone's well and ready for another adventure in art. Today I'm going to create a kind of spray painted background with some lovely vibrant colours, and then I'm going to paint a tree on top of that, and we're going to see how that's going to work out. Hoping it's going to be a fairly easy but quite dramatic sort of painting. Should be a bit of fun. And I've got a palette here that's got some paint in it that's left over from another painting that I did recently, and I thought to myself, I think I'll use that up. And then of course what happens is you realise you haven't got quite enough, so I'm going to have to top it up anyway. But what I'm using a Michael Harding, but I think anything would do. For example, Paul Rubens or any of the Chinese paints, Chow Mei and Light Wish, or any of them, all be fine. So what I'm going to do, I'm putting out some quinacridone gold, and this is azo orange, benzimidazole, and alizarin crimson. I think there's probably enough of that there. Or is that quinacridone rose? I think that's quinacridone rose. So I'll put alizarin crimson out here because I want it to be a bit on the reddish side. And we'll need some yellow as well. Yellow's not in that box. I've got a little bit of yellow there, azo yellow. Whoops, luckily that's dry. A bit of azo yellow there. And just wondering about the greens. This is moss green. Excuse me. So I'll put a bit more of that out. And in a minute, I'm going to mix water into these wells. That's perylene green. That's very strong. I won't put any more out there for the minute. So having done that, what we'll do is we'll spray water into all of these. There are quicker ways of transferring water into your paint. One of them would be to use a water dropper, or you can use a big brush. Whatever makes the most sense for you. It's actually quite hard on the wrist to do it like this. You could also even, you know what, you could just tip some water in there, couldn't you? Duh. That's probably the easiest way of all. Have a little jug of it or something like that. So now I'm going to, I won't use that brush because that's a good brush. I'll use a cheap brush to do this mixing part. And what I'm going to do is just mix the paint into the water so that we have a nice rich liquid paint, because we're going to be putting this on with a toothbrush. So we just get the most of that paint off the side, on the side there, wipe it off on my towel, rinse it out in one of my jars of water, and go to the next one. This is the quinacridone gold. Whoops, it's just gone to visit the yellow. And get that all nice and liquidy in there, and scrape the bottom a bit, scrape the bottom of the barrel. So get most of that off, wipe it off on my towel, rinse it out. Then we put a little bit more of this one in, didn't we? So we'll do the same thing there. This is a bit repetitive, so I hope you're not bored. Clean that. I have to make sure you clean the brush in between. These brushes this brush I'm using here is a cheap one from, I think it was free with a set of paints that I was sent. So it doesn't matter if I kind of smush down quite hard to mix the paint into the water. This is one of the, for this kind of painting, this is one of the good reasons for having tube paints rather than pan paints. So, you know, most people want both kinds in their armoury. I think. And then there's this one. I'll just wake this one up. And there we go. I think that's probably good enough for now. Are you okay? I'm just looking for a book. Oh, right. On rhubarb? Yeah. So I've put some brown paper underneath my working paper here. This is, I've taken the cover off of that, but this is a sheet of a block of Meeden cold press, 140-pound watercolor paper. This is the larger size, which is, I can never remember these numbers, 12 by 9. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with, maybe I'll start with the softer brush here. This is a brand new toothbrush that came free with a flight that my husband did. And we're going to pick up the lightest colour, and I'm going to use my hands, and I'm going to get in a mess, but I'm just going to spray. And as you might imagine, this is kind of like a poor man's airbrush kind of thing. So I'm just going to go with the yellow over the whole of the paper. And we're going to say, time to sit down. And we'll keep building up layers using this technique. It's actually easier to stand. And I might try the other brush, it might be better. No, that's too hard. I think that one might have come to the end of its useful days. If we get a variation of size of spatter, that's quite a good thing. Somebody made a comment on one of my videos a little while ago saying, why do people put spatter on their paintings? I don't see the great watercolorists doing that. And that kind of prompted me to think, hey, that's a bit of a cheek, because it's not true actually. Plenty of great watercolorists, whatever that means, use spatter and various other techniques on their paintings. And anyway, so now we'll go into the orange and we'll start building up. That shows up a lot more. Orange always does show up a lot more than yellow. So what we'll do is we'll concentrate the darkness down the bottom. So we'll make sure we get plenty of this colour down here and a little bit over there, perhaps. Whoops, that went all over the table, never mind. Okay, and now we'll move to the quinacridone rose and put some of that in. And try and keep the centre a little bit lighter here. And now this is the alizarin crimson, I think. And yeah, now I think I might switch to some green. Probably should have cleaned that brush to do the green, so I'll just do that. Let's have this moss green. I have very little idea what this is going to turn out like, I might say. Very little. I put some big blobs now. I don't know what I'm going to do next at this moment in time. And this is the very dark green. Well, I don't know if I'm ever going to get my hands clean. So, having done that, I'm thinking what I might do, this is very experimental, is take this long brush, which is a sword liner, and let's see whether we can draw some trees through the paint, through the wet paint. And just randomly allow these branches to grow. It's quite interesting. We could flick some grasses or something like that down here. And then perhaps we can put another tree coming up from here, perhaps. And make the trunk a bit thicker down the bottom. And then maybe we can put some landscape in the background. Just drawing through all of our spatter. Maybe we'll pick up some of this dark that we've mixed down here and we can lay that in. It doesn't have any desire to dry. So it's still working. Okay, maybe we put a few more branches. You could carry on with branches. I think I'm going to lift a little bit of that out. That seems a little bit over the top there, which is definitely a possibility. And then you can, if that doesn't sort of match anymore, you can always do it somewhere else. So you've got another option. Maybe we'll just dab a little bit along there. like that. And then you could, of course, just pick up some more. Let's see, what do we want? The darkest colour, perhaps? Just put a few more dots in there. And if we feel that this ought to be darker too, maybe it should, we can just bring in some more of this perylene green. And you can, of course, lift out as well if you want to make it a bit lighter in places, or to lift out the paint so that you can come in with a darker one. So I think it's a good idea to have a few quite strong darks down here, going over, not next to, but over. And it's going to be quite interesting to see how this dries. And you're probably thinking, my goodness, that's a dreadful mess. But I don't know. I don't think it is a dreadful mess. It says experiments. We don't want to go too far. I think possibly that might be enough. And I think I'm going to let that dry and see what we've got. And if we feel that we need to put in a few lights, we can always come in with some white gouache if it needs it once it's dry. But for the minute, I'm going to let that dry. I might even take it off of its brown paper so that we can take a better look at what we've done. Okay, well, we'll see how that dries out. Okay, so this is now completely dry, and I've got a couple of things I want to do to it. In the meantime, I did take a photograph of this at this stage, and then I made it into black and white. And that way, by looking at the black and white version, I can tell whether or not I've got enough contrast. In other words, whether my tonality is correct. And it brings up issues that you may or may not be able to see when you're looking at the color version. So it's actually quite a handy thing to do. Any photo that you take on your phone, you can go to the option of putting a filter on, and you can choose black and white. So it's very easy to do now. And one of the things it highlighted was something that I had noticed was wrong, which is this bit here where this tree trunk goes over the background there. That needs to be darker because you need some counter change. Counter change is the difference between light and dark. And so what I need to do is just quickly mix up some dark brown, which will be quinacridone gold plus, or you could use burnt sienna plus perylene green. And then I'm just going to darken that bit of the tree trunk there. Okay. So that solves that little bit of a problemo. And And it doesn't matter if it's not quite the same colour as other parts of the tree trunk, because that's fine. So there's that. And then I can make that a bit wider there too, just a bit, I think. Maybe a little bit darker. You can play around, you know, it all depends how much effort you want to put into these things. And then I thought, actually, this little blob here, this looks like a bird. And what I need to do is I need to put some birds on these branches to make it look more alive. So I cut out some little bits of, this is actually pieces of leaf. I just picked up a few dead leaves and I cut some random shapes, and I'm going to arrange them on here so that I can see. I haven't even bothered to make them the shape of birds. I'm just going to arrange them on here so that I can see where would be the best places to put my birds. Okay, so we're going to have a couple of quite small ones up the top there, like that, and I'll make them all that kind of shape. And then I just need to sort of move them around and decide where I feel the best positions are. Yeah, and this is a very important thing to do, really, because once you've done it, you've done it. And if you've done it wrong, or you feel as if you've done it wrong, then you've done it wrong, and that's all there is to it. So, yeah, I'm going to take some burnt sienna, and I'm going to paint a bird here. And make that a little bit bigger, because it kind of went a bit wrong. And I'm going to put one over here. I'm going to put one here. And we'll give this one a tail. We'll make it into a little birdie person. And put one over here, perhaps. And maybe put one here. So now we have a few birds in our trees, and I think that's probably pretty much done. And just one last thing is to put back in the grasses here at the bottom, where I think I blotted it out a little bit. Maybe I blotted it a bit too much, because when that dried, the grasses looked as if they were kind of a bit too pale, or not broken in the right places. So that will do fine. You could add a little bit more spatter at this point if you wanted to. You could add some gouache if you wanted to lighten up some areas, but actually I think it's probably okay. So I'm going to leave it like that, and if you wanted to lighten it anywhere, it would be around here, but I think probably we're better off just leaving it. And yeah, so I'll let you go. Hope you enjoyed that, and give it a try. It's a lot of fun. Spray painting, why not? And yeah, I'll see you again soon. So I'll say bye-bye for now, everybody. Take care. Happy painting. Bye for now. Bye-bye, everyone.